They've done away with the high housing prices, the Civil Affairs Bureau, the Obstetrics and Gynecology Department, the kindergarten, the karaoke, and all kinds of humanities and sophistication. Now they got rid of the down jackets, put on the green military coats, and wear bright floral cotton padded jackets. They refuse to be manipulated. They have no car loan, house loan, or next generation. They don't hang out together, don't gossip, don't compare, don't visit relatives or visit each other. The people of the new era lock the door as soon as they enter the house, draw the curtains, put on the headphones, love no one, and even order takeout in the middle of the night. The key is that they have also adjusted their relationships to work. They do not work overtime, do not reply to group messages, do not add their managers on WeChat, do not answer calls from them, and do not accept any unfair treatment. Gen Z are simply sober and clear about the world.
Gen Z will cry when they see them. Taking advantage of them is simply a daydream. They have changed the workplace, changed real estate, and also changed the wedding market. They have a narrow focus. No mortgage, no car loan, no children. If you don't work, you won't buy a house. And if you don't get married, you won't have children. This year, they began to change the clothing industry. They said it's not that down jackets are unaffordable, but that military coats are more cost-effective. Boys wear green jerseys to protect them from cold and wind at low prices, and they can also be used as raincoats when it rains. Girls collectively wear cotton-padded jackets, which are fashionable and effective in keeping warm. They are leading change. Gen Z has expressed the dissatisfaction we want to, but dared not to.
Young people in mainland China have been facing multiple challenges, such as a continuous decline in the Chinese economy, high unemployment rates, and intense social competition. These issues have led to a phenomenon known as lying flat among young people. Last year, the term 4 no's was widely circulated in society, referring to young individuals who do not seek the 4 things: romantic relationships, marriage, home ownership, or parenthood. This year, the trend has evolved into 10 no's. The emergence of this new wave of lying flat has sparked widespread discussions. The 10 no's declaration includes 10 principles: no blood donation, no charitable donations, no marriage, no childbirth, no home purchase, no lottery ticket purchase, no stock trading, no fund investment, no assisting elderly people who fall, and no emotional involvement. Netizens have expressed various opinions on this matter, with some suggesting additional principles such as no car purchase, no organ donation agreement, and no COVID-19 vaccines. They view it as a form of self-preservation, but also as self-destructive behavior. Some argue that this is not a normal way of life, but in a largely abnormal environment, most people feel compelled to survive in whatever way they can. In fact, the story behind the 10 No's declaration is both remarkable and thought-provoking. Take the first principle, no blood donation, for instance. A recent incident in Shanghai garnered attention when a woman who had experienced a car accident while traveling in Tibet's Nagari region boasted online about how her aunt used connections to contact the Shanghai Health Commission. The Health Commission, in turn, mobilized civil servants, police officers, firefighters, and military personnel in Nagari to collectively donate blood for her. Subsequently, her family spent a staggering amount, reportedly up to $500 million to charter a Gulfstream G550 private jet to transport her to Sichuan. She was then given a VIP escort to the hospital, narrowly escaping a life-threatening situation. This woman was mockingly labeled as the blood tank lady by netizens. In stark contrast, a single child from an ordinary family suddenly fell ill with a rare respiratory disease that required long-term oxygen support to stay alive. However, the exorbitant medical costs made it impossible for the child's parents to afford treatment. Faced with the unaffordable medical bills, the child's father was forced to remove the oxygen tube himself. During the removal, the child cried out, "Dad, save me." Overwhelmed by guilt, the father could no longer bear it, and he broke down in tears, soaking his son's pale face. Ultimately, the parents could only watch helplessly as their child gradually drew his last breath. Some commentators argue that if this child had a relative like the blood tank lady did, would inability to pay the medical bills have been an issue? It's evident that the difference in fortune between the former and the latter is a poignant reflection of the real-life disparities between China's privileged class and ordinary citizens. Another tenet in the 10 No's, no charitable donations, is rooted in the fear of funds ending up in the hands of individuals like Guo Meimei. In June 2011, Guo Meimei, claiming to be the general business manager of the Chinese Red Cross Society, flaunted her opulent lifestyle on Weibo, showcasing her large villa, luxury cars such as Maseratis and Lamborghinis, and her mother's collection of Hermes bags. This scandal tarnished the reputation of the Red Cross Society, raising questions about the destination of donations. Regarding the principle, no home purchase, consider the case of popular Douyin platform influencers Liang Lijun. This young couple, working in Zhengzhou, Henan, attracted a following of 339,000 fans. They purchased a property developed by Sunac China Holdings Limited, but the project turned into an unfinished building during an economic crisis. After the construction was completed, the couple went to the sales office to request a refund of the over 20,000 yuan prepayment promised by the company. Instead, they were physically assaulted by security personnel, and their phones were confiscated. Later, their Douyin account was banned, and they were prohibited from live streaming. Their urban dreams turned into a failure, and they planned to return to their hometown. For many young people in China, the real estate market is both unstable and beyond reach. A series of defaults by large Chinese developers has left millions of purchased apartments unfinished, leaving homeowners, especially younger ones, in a predicament. According to a survey by a Chinese university, 2/3 of people born after the 90s believe that owning a house is a prerequisite for marriage. Scholars have found that rising property prices have significantly reduced the marriage rate in China. Property prices have become a crucial factor in assessing the cost of marriage. Regarding the principle no marriage, in recent years, the number of marriages in China has been steadily decreasing, and the age at which people get married has continuously risen. According to the latest data from the Chinese Ministry of Civil Affairs, in 2022, there were 6.8 million marriages in China, marking a 37-year low. In 2019, the number of marriages in China fell below 10 million, falling below 9 million in 2020 and below 8 million in 2021. In 2022, it dropped below 7 million, a year-on-year decrease of over 800,000 marriages, or 10.5%. Compared to the peak in 2013, the number of marriages in China has fallen by 49.3% in 9 years, nearly half. Analysts argue that young people's reluctance to marry is due to various reasons, especially for educated youth working in large cities. Long commutes, extended working hours, limited leisure time, and relatively low salaries leave little time, energy, or capability for socializing and maintaining romantic relationships. According to a report by China's Yitai media, the rapid decline in the number of marriages in China can be attributed to various factors, including delayed marriage and childbirth, changing attitudes, and the impact of the pandemic. Moving on to the principle of no childbirth, data from the Chinese National Health Commission reveals that in 2022, the number of births in China was only 9.6 million, the lowest recorded figure since 1949. Publicly available data shows that in 2022, the number of births in China decreased by over 1 million compared to 2021, when there were 10.62 million births. Qiao Jie, an academician of the Chinese Academy of Engineering and the director of the medical school at Peking University, stated on August 8, 2023, that the number of newborns in China has declined by approximately 40% in the past 5 years, with a total of 9.6 million births in 2022. On January 17th, the Chinese National Bureau of Statistics announced the 2023 population data, revealing that there were just over 9 million births all year. This marked a decrease of 540,000 compared to 2022. Despite China's government abolishing the one-child policy and implementing a series of measures to encourage parents to have a second or third child, the birth rate in China decreased by 10% in 2022, reaching a historic low. China's total population has also experienced its first decline in 60 years, a situation unprecedented even during the years of Great Famine. Chinese demographers lament that China is getting old before getting rich, with declining incomes, skyrocketing healthcare and welfare costs, and an increased government debt affecting the rapidly declining economy. The declining birth rate will have a significant impact on the education sector, especially in early childhood education. In 2022, the number of kindergartens in China decreased by more than 5,000. This marked the first time since 2008 that the number of kindergartens in China has shrunken. Throughout this year, there have been continuous reports of kindergarten closures, particularly among private kindergartens struggling due to a lack of students. According to reports from mainland China, in August of this year, the Education Bureau of Linchuan County, Fuyang City, Anhui Province, announced that 50 private kindergartens in the area would cease operations. Out of these, 12 kindergartens applied for closure, while 39 kindergartens had no actual enrollment or teaching activities. As time goes on, primary schools, middle schools, and even universities will also be affected. Chao Jingzhong, an associate professor at the Institute of Higher Education Research at Beijing Normal University, stated last year that, according to model predictions, the number of primary schools will decrease by at least half in the next 12 years. This will have a ripple effect on middle schools and universities. On November 29, 2022, the Hunan Provincial Department of Education issued a notice requiring cities and prefectures to formulate plans and strategies for adjusting and optimizing the layout of primary and secondary schools and kindergartens for the years 2024 to 2035 based on future regional birth rates, changes in the school-age population, urbanization trends, and local economic and social development plans, among other factors. From the lying flat and being mediocre trends that began in 2021 to the emergence of the 4 no's and now the 10 no's, these popular phrases among China's young people reflect their deep despair regarding the realities of life. In reality, many young people have put in strenuous efforts, but in a society marked by excessive competition and pressures for conformity, many have ultimately met with failure. A 27-year-old named Sun Ke grew up in a comfortable family in a small town in eastern China. He aspired to buy a house and a car in a big city through his own efforts. At the end of 2018, freshly graduated, he invested 650,000 yuan with a friend to open a restaurant selling skewers in Shanghai. However, they soon realized that the market competition was fierce, with all new businesses operating at a loss just to survive. Despite waking up at 6 or 7 in the morning and returning home as late as 3 or 4 in the morning every day, their business continued to struggle. In 2020, facing a staggering loss of over 1 million yuan, he ultimately chose to close the restaurant. He described this experience as a nightmare of mutual consumption, where everyone ended up as losers. In recent years, youth unemployment in China has become increasingly severe. On January 17th, the Chinese National Bureau of Statistics resumed publishing the unemployment rate for young people aged 16 to 24. After optimizing the statistics and excluding 62 million students, the unemployment rate for this group dropped from 20% in the first half of 2023 to 15%. This led Chinese citizens to question the authorities for their data optimization. A high-ranking manager named Mr. Wu told Voice of America that the possibility of underestimating the unemployment rate is quite high. He mentioned that he had seen many young people who had already graduated coming for interviews without their diplomas. Upon further inquiry, he discovered that schools were unwilling to issue diplomas, stating that you are not considered graduated until you find a job. In other words, those who haven't found work are still considered students, and therefore they are not counted in official unemployment figures. Mr. Wu said, the high youth unemployment rate in China is not necessarily due to a lack of job opportunities, but rather because the jobs available no longer provide a favorable cost-benefit ratio. He mentioned that the economic recovery in China has been sluggish since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. In recent months, this has led to a shrinking of salaries. Even the value of a university education has declined. Students from prestigious institutions, such as those in the top ranks of China's official 985 project or 211 project universities, may find it challenging to secure jobs. However, if they do find employment, the starting salaries have been slashed by at least 30%, going from monthly salaries of over 10,000 yuan before the pandemic to just around 6,000 to 7,000 yuan. Once highly sought after, returning overseas students now face particularly limited opportunities. Mr. Wu explained that these young people who have returned to China after studying abroad often lack the social skills and smoothness required in the Chinese workplace. As a result, many companies are hesitant to hire them. The most challenging situation is for graduates from low-ranking universities. Even if they manage to find jobs in first-tier cities, their monthly salaries typically hover around 5,000 to 6,000 yuan. graduates from vocational schools face even lower starting salaries, often as low as 3,000 to 4,000 yuan. Such income levels may not cover living expenses, especially in the Yangtze River Delta region, where rent and commuting costs are high. Li, a university teacher in the southeastern and coastal regions of China, pointed out that students from fields with high demand, such as artificial intelligence, have an easier time finding jobs. However, those from more niche fields like interior design and construction face a tough job market. Li also mentioned that, in the face of challenging job searches and less than ideal salaries, around 20% of well-off graduates opt to lie flat. They choose to stay at home, rely on their parents for support, eat at home, and often spend their days playing video games. Some may consider preparing for postgraduate exams, but overall, they lack concrete plans for the future. Mr. Lin, who works in industrial equipment in the thriving Pearl River Delta region's manufacturing sector, added that many of his clients have significantly downsized their workforce. This comes after these new energy companies had aggressively hired in previous years when the industry was booming. However, as the economic and industry outlook worsened, the demand for labor also decreased. Lin noted, in the year following the end of the pandemic, there has been a noticeable disparity between certain economic data and how people perceive it. I believe that the difficulties young people face in finding employment are undoubtedly closely related to the actual economic situation. Lin further pointed out that workers who have been laid off struggle to make ends meet in expensive cities, which prompts many of them to return to their hometowns in search of new opportunities. However, returning home doesn't guarantee employment, as many technical and industrial production jobs simply aren't available in remote areas. In summary, young people in China are grappling with high property prices, intense societal competition, and the burden of securing stable employment. The volatility in the real estate market has made it challenging for many young people to realize their dreams of homeownership. Additionally, high unemployment rates and low wages make it difficult for young people to find stable jobs. Meanwhile, changing attitudes toward marriage and the rising cost of living have led more young people to choose not to marry or have children. The phenomenon of the 10 no's has attracted widespread attention and discussion in society. It reflects the despair of the younger generation with their current reality and their questioning and dissatisfaction with the societal system, values, and life choices. From not donating blood or money to not getting married or having children, these 10 no's declarations reflect the young generation's skepticism and discontent with various aspects of society.